And now, Good Mike Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Another gorgeous Saturday afternoon for a wingy. What is going on, guys? Welcome to your Winged Eagle Podcast for Saturday, September 14th, 2024. Big one today. Lots going on. We had the season premiere of SmackDown moving to the USA Network last night that had a huge cage match between Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa for the WWE title in a match that we knew we would likely see Roman Reigns appear in. We did. We got a big match set up for Bad Blood. And we have a little bit of a new look SmackDown. So we're going to be talking about last night's season premiere of SmackDown in this episode, along with a ton of wrestling news. Nothing earth-shattering. The wrestling news I have written down, it's a lot, but it's a lot of smaller stuff. We got some TV, media rights deal stuff. We got some WWE news, Raw going back to 2 hours, Def Rebel stuff, WWE scaling back live events, things like that. We got Daniel Garcia updates. We've got Motor City Machine Gun updates, Jesse Ventura updates, and a few random things. Last night's TNA Victory Road, we might touch on that. And, of course, this week's Dynamite was kind of an interesting show because they have really shaken up Grand Slam coming up in a couple of weeks and kind of shaken up and even undermined their own booking a little bit. And what I saw on Wednesday, even though I thought the show was good, kind of a reminder of what people have problems or why people have problems with AEW because of, you know, kind of the convolutedness of how they're booking Grand Slam now. If it turns out great, great, but man, they're taking an awfully windy road to get there. So we'll talk a little bit about Dynamite as well, and how the card looks now for Grand Slam. I think 3 matches are set for that. We got a big collision coming up tonight that was taped, and we now have 4, after last night's SmackDown, 4 matches currently confirmed for Bad Blood. We're also going to talk a little bit about this past Monday's Raw. We're not going to review it, but I was up here on Monday with you guys doing a live reaction of the show, but we didn't stick around and talk about too much. So I do want to talk a little bit about Bret Hart's appearance and the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre Hell in the Cell match, and Jey Uso becoming the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. So we'll talk about a lot of that. Kind of just a big old smorgasbord of wrestling news and chatter and results to get into today. Should be a fun one. I hope you guys are having a great afternoon. I want to apologize for not being here last night. My plan was to be here. I originally had the Friday night off. So a couple days ago, I posted a link for last night to do a watch-along of SmackDown. But then I found out last minute I was booked for a gig. It was one I couldn't pass up, very profitable, so I had to take it, and I had to cancel the watch-along last night, so I'm sorry about that. But we will be back with a classic watch-along tomorrow. The link is already up on my channel. Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on the YouTube channel. We're going to watch WCW Fall Brawl 1993. I don't know if I've ever seen this show. I think I've seen the War Games match before, but not much else about the show is really ringing a bell. So we're going to look at Fall Brawl 1993 tomorrow night. That one is going to be fun. My plan is to be up here on Monday again for the Raw watch-along. However, I do have a dentist appointment that day. I'm going through a series of appointments right now, getting some work done, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be in pain or not. So the plan is to be up here on Monday for Raw, but if for any reason I'm coming home not feeling great, we might postpone it, but I think I'm going to be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and probably schedule that, and I'll have a link for you guys up probably by like tomorrow night. So that is the plan. If anything crazy happens at the dentist and they rip half my jaw out, then I will cancel the watch along for Monday, and we'll just have to take a couple days off. But I have a feeling I will be here. Some of my more serious work doesn't happen until later on in the week. So just keep that in mind for the weekend and in the next couple of days. But you should be seeing me 3 straight days starting now. So hopefully you guys are having a great afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Let me just cruise over here to the chat real quick, say some hellos and some shout outs, and then we will get moving in our wrestling news. In the meantime, you guys know what to do. That little thumbs up button there, hit that with a smash. Give this video a like. We need it desperately. And please hook us up with a subscription if you are not yet subscribed. We have super chats open. Memberships are open as well. Everything is available to you this afternoon. Good to see. You know, I want to hit channel members first. So I'm going to say hello to my boy Zane G first, followed by Danny in Oak Park. Cheers to you, my friend. Nick Musser is here. Isaac is here. Last night's SmackDown was a blast. Did you go? A lot of people did go. It was Rupp Arena last night in Kentucky, right? I did get a few tweets from people who said they were at the show. Looked like it was a blast and a hot crowd, as tends to be the case with WWE events lately. Good to see Amato in the house. 15th straight day of work. Damn, son. I work 2 jobs now, and I'm in front of the house at a restaurant again, part-time. That's good. There's money in the front of the house. Just want to hang out and rest today. Give Tito my love. I will. Tito is right here behind me, and he's been acting real weird. He's been all over the house, meowing, very vocal. He's just kind of acting a little goofy last couple days. So Tito's having a good time in here. He sends his love back to you, Amato. Who else we got? All Sports Are Scripted. Good to see you. Michael Kumo, Big J, and William, and Sonic Plays. Rounding out some more channel members, along with the Juliet. Always happy to see you. We've got Denny Downbad as well. Daniel Barry Sports, Rodrigo, Mike Rouse, Ben Espinoza, Jay Lambo. We've got Steven Jacobson. Welcome, my friend. William Cullen, Gilbert Arbalo. We've got Damian Drain, I see in here as well. Nick Musser, did I get you? If I didn't, I meant to. And I think we got a Jay Boba generous $10 drop in the Super Chats. Thank you for that, my friend. Although Cody and Roman teaming up is interesting, Punk vs. McIntyre should still main event Bad Blood. Also, crazy if Cody and Roman were to have a match, today's fans would cheer more for Roman. Maybe. I still very much like Cody, but it is nice to see Roman getting those cheers. And that was the first thing I thought of last night on SmackDown, is when they made that match. I'm like, well, shit. How can you have a match involving Roman Reigns and the WWE champion Cody Rhodes and it not be in the main event? You know, granted, it's a title match. It's not a title match. Roman did, I think, did they semi-main event? No, they didn't. I think even that one tag match where he lost to Jey Uso, that was even, wasn't that main event at Money in the Bank? When was that? So, like last year, you know? So I feel like Punk and Drew, much like Hangman and Swerve, should be the main event. But also, if you're WWE, I don't know how you don't make it the match that involves Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, arguably your 2 biggest stars, the 2 people who main evented WrestleMania this year, for that to be on the undercard. I certainly wouldn't have a problem with it. If Drew and Punk was main event at Hell in the Cell, I believe it should be too. But I'm going to understand if WWE feels like they have to make it Cody and Roman. You know, it's one of those things where I'm not really going to care, but I do agree that Punk and Drew feels like it should be the main event match. And that would be good for both of them to be able to main event that. I mean, the first Hell in the Cell, I mean, as a matter of fact, that's a good throwback here. Throwback to the first Hell in the Cell. Or I'm sorry, the first Bad Blood, October 5th, Hell in the Cell main event. Taker and Shawn were not champions. That was not a title match. That was a number 1 contenders match, which I still think they could still add to Punk and Drew, since Punk kind of called out Gunther a couple weeks ago. I could see them adding that stip to the cage match, but also at Bad Blood back in 1997, the world champion Bret Hart was in a tag match. I believe it was Bret and Davey against like Vader and someone or something like that. Might have been Vader and Patriot. That might have been it. But it was weird, like a tag team match, and that was on the undercard. But then again, Bret was on his way out, and he's not not in the same position in the company in 97 that Cody and Roman are in 2024. So it remains to be seen. Drop your takes in the chat there. Where do you think Punk and Drew should land on the card? Thank you to the Juliet, gifting out a channel membership to Jay Lambo, hooking him up. Also good to see Robert Jr., 2005. Hello to you, sir. Right on. Okay, well, thank you for being here this afternoon. And I think we can get into some wrestling news now that we got all the pleasantries out of the way. How weird is it that I'm back here at a regular time? It's 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. I haven't done a 6 Eastern or 3 Pacific Winged Eagle in a couple of months. A few months, I think, because this is normally our time. But generally, I find myself needing to be at work a little earlier on the weekend. So I've been scheduling these earlier. But today, we are up at regular time, and it feels good. One of these days, we will be back with a Saturday night's Greg event. As a matter of fact, I originally had tonight off as well, but I am working. So, well, next time I get a Saturday night off, it'll be Saturday night's Greg event again, prime time. Why don't we talk about some wrestling news first? Now, it would not be a Winged Eagle podcast in 2024 if we didn't talk about AEW and their fucking media rights deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. Light at the end of the tunnel, guys. I've been coming up here since February. The deal's going to be done this week, guys. It's coming up. It's fucking September, and we're still talking about it. But It really does this time feel like a deal is done. Reports are that the new media rights deal between AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery is finalized, just has not been announced. They are expecting, or at least the rumors, the rumblings, the reports, and the same thing we've been talking about for months here. They are expecting pay-per-view to be incorporated somehow in this deal, whether it's a streaming on Max or how they set it up, or whether it's you have to buy the subscription to Max that gives you a discounted price at the pay-per-view, whatever it is, it's expected to involve that. And that really was my only absolute must for the media rights deal. I didn't care how much money it was, nothing like that. I didn't care. All I wanted is the ability to access, hopefully, AEW's video library and their pay-per-views. Now, if the money that they're reportedly getting is reportedly double what they got for the last rights fee, somewhere in the neighborhood of $70 million per year. So or is it per year or per deal? No, I think it's per year. I think it's somewhere 70 million, something like that, which would be double what they were receiving before, around double. Based on the ratings and the popularity kind of declining from where it was when they first signed the deal, how do you justify paying them double, even if you factor in inflation and whatnot? How do you justify paying them that much unless you're also purchasing their pay-per-views? And so if AEW feels like they can get the same amount of money from Warner Brothers Discovery to own the rights to their pay-per-views, and they'd get paid for that money basically all up front instead of having to wait for the pay-per-view money to come in, and Warner Brothers Discovery is paying them more than they've made in the previous 5 years on pay-per-views, then that makes a lot of sense that could be a part of that. And as a fan, we all hope that that's it. I don't really want to be spending $50 a month on AEW pay-per-views for very much longer. I'm doing it. We do it because we have a duty here on YouTube to watch these things and watch them with you all and review them and that kind of thing. But it would be nice to have this available in a similar fashion that WWE is available on Peacock. Now, with Peacock, you get all of the pay-per-views just for free because they paid an assload of money to WWE for all those pay-per-views. So with AEW, it might not be the exact same. You might not be able to get the pay-per-views for free, but you might be able to get them at a discounted price. I think the UFC and ESPN is set up similarly, I believe, right? So hopefully it's nothing too annoying. You know, that's another big issue here if they do announce this deal and it's got streaming in place. You know, I'm a very, I want to be a simple consumer. I don't want to jump through too many flaming hoops. Just give me a platform to go to, and I can find the shit there. I don't want to have to go here just to get that, subscribe to this so you can get that in order to subscribe to that. Just make it fucking simple. Get a damn deal with Max. Dynamite, Rampage, Collision on TBS and TNT. Pay-per-views now available through Max. Video library available through Max. Ring of Honor library available through Max. That type of shit. As a fan, that's what I'm looking for. So when this deal finally gets announced, we will break it down and find out exactly what is going to be the future of AEW. The only thing that we know for sure is that AEW ain't going nowhere. So all of you praying for their death, praying for their demise, they are going to outlive you. So get used to it. Also, there has been a lot of talk about AEW possibly having a working agreement or relationship with Fox. There's been some chatter about AEW possibly talking to Fox and working out an agreement to do a show on their networks. Now, I seriously doubt this will be Fox, like where SmackDown just left, but it probably will be like FS1. I know Meltzer was speculating on a lot of that this week, even though his was just more speculation, not really reporting or any concrete sources. This is just kind of the belief if AEW did strike some sort of a deal with Fox to produce a show over there, it will probably be FS1, not Fox. But how crazy would it be if it was Fox? And this has coincided with an interesting trademark that AEW recently filed for called AEW Shockwave. So they have filed a trademark for Shockwave, leading people to believe that Shockwave might be the name of the show. They're trying to get on Fox. So they could be expanding greatly, not only re-upping their deal with Warner Brothers Discovery, but now incorporating streaming options and capabilities for their pay-per-views and tape libraries, and now putting themselves on another network. Does that saturate the market? Maybe, but you're also trying to grow your business, which all the fans who hate AEW, they're not growing. Well, they're growing now, motherfucker. So get used to it. And sooner or later, you won't even be able to brag and dunk on anyone for the ratings, because in a matter of time, everything's just going to move to streaming, and those ratings numbers already mean just a fraction of what they used to mean, and that's only going to get less and less important. So you're going to have to rely on your hard cam picks and your attendance figures and all that nonsense, when you want to whack off with hate, which All Out, this past week, drew 8,500 fans, almost 9,000 fans. That's 1,000 or 2 fans more than any average WCW pay-per-view in the Attitude Era or in the Monday Night Wars. Go look at their numbers. Everything's 6, 7, 8,000 for all their shows. It's the attendance is not that bad. They have an attendance decline. They do. They have big arenas where some of it's tarped off. Doesn't mean they're dead and inferior and not worthy of existing. They aren't going anywhere. Post your hard cam picks all day and whack off to Cornette's podcast. They aren't going anywhere. Accept it. That's going to be interesting, though, when we get this deal done. I'm looking forward to it, just so we can put it behind us and we can know as wrestling fans where we're going to get everything, because now WWE and AEW's deals are done. We know where Raw is. We know where SmackDown is. We'll know where Rampage and Collision and Dynamite is, and hopefully we will have a new home or a new option for AEW pay-per-views, and we know WWE is on Peacock, and we finally, know where we can find shit, and we're safe for a couple of years until the next deal comes up, and we have to worry about that. So if anything, from a wrestling fan's perspective, I'm just ready for this deal to get done, because I just want to know where I can find stuff, But it'll be interesting once that announcement is made. Let's see here. Let's stick on AEW's side of things real quick, because I'm looking at my notes and the rest of stuff is mostly WWE. The only other AEW kind of tidbit I want to mention is the latest on Daniel Garcia, and apparently his future is still not set in stone. Now, this is a Fightful Select update a couple of days ago where they said that our friend Ibu of WrestlePurists, noted on Saturday after MJF defeated Daniel Garcia that originally Garcia was considered for the win at All Out. However, due to him not yet signing a new contract, the result was changed. Fightful Select has confirmed both of those, that Garcia was considered for the win and that those in AEW said he's not signed a new deal. Garcia has been offered a new deal, and AEW were hopeful he'd sign before All Out, which did not happen. One top talent had been under the impression this summer that Garcia was staying, but that is far from a guarantee. AEW believes that WWE has interest in Garcia, but we've not heard if any contact has been made as of yet. Fightful spoke to Garcia last week, Fightful spoke to Garcia last week, who even though hasn't signed a new deal, was doing the media rounds for the company. So I kind of hope in Garcia's case that he sticks around, although it would be kind of interesting if we could get, a gob of AEW talent in NXT. We got Ethan Page there, and Ricky Starks should be due in any day whenever his contract does in fact run up. He'll be in WWE, probably popping up in NXT as well. And between Paige and Ricky and Pillman Jr. and a bunch of others you could probably find, I think, and Sean Spears, could be fun to see, kind of a little mini AEW reunion in NXT. So we'll see where everybody lands. But in Garcia's case, somebody like Ricky Starks, he needs to go to WWE. He just does. Garcia, though, I think he could do well in AEW, and I want to see him there. I feel like it's all going to rely on, Tony Khan not fumbling momentum like he's tended to do before. But if Garcia, re-signs a new deal and hits the scene full blast, maybe gets a win over MJF, and starts getting over, just don't fuck it up. Otherwise, I think Garcia could do great in AEW. So I'm kind of rooting for him to stick around there. Speaking of comings and goings, the Motor City Machine Guns have officially signed with WWE. Longtime tag team from the TNA days, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. I'm from the Motor City. I was born in Pontiac, man. So good to see them signing with WWE. They've had a long, storied history in tag team wrestling. I think they're a great signing for WWE. I'll be excited to see what they do when they get there. However, there's been a lot of chatter this week about where they will go first. And some of the reports are indicating or hinting that when they get to WWE, their first stop is going to be NXT. Naturally, the internet flips out. What? These guys are legends. They're going to developmental. It's not really developmental. I don't consider NXT, like that much of a step down really at all. And I think if they came in, same with Ricky Starks, and they came in and they touched a little bit of NXT first before main roster, or these guys who are both in their 40s might be brought into NXT, to be like, wrestling trainers there. They might be working there as performers, maybe a little bit of, experience on the main roster as well. But when they're off time, they're working in the performance center, working with the young talent. These guys have a lot of knowledge to pass on. They're veterans, and they'd both make great, brains to pick. So I don't necessarily have the time or desire to be outraged about something like that. If WWE debuts the Motor City Machine Guns in NXT, the last thing in the world that's going to occur to me is to be pissed. I'll be like, oh, cool. The Motor City Machine Guns are in NXT. Awesome. I'm not going to look at that as an insult to them, or as a step down or anything like that. I'm just looking at that as, oh, wow, the Motor City Machine Guns are in NXT. Why? Why are we mad? Why are we so mad? I get that you might, as a fan, prefer to see them on Raw or SmackDown. Totally. Oh, man, I was kind of hoping when they come in, I'd get to see them right away on Raw or SmackDown. Fair enough. But to sit there and act like WWE is completely fucking clueless as to what to do with these guys, come on. Not everything needs to be blown out of proportion. It will not be a big deal at all if they go to NXT. Everybody will survive. These guys are the ones signing the fucking contracts. They know what they're going to be doing. If WWE is going to put them in NXT, they know that, and they signed the contract, which means they are fine with it. So why are you butthurt? WWE, one thing we learned this past Monday night on Raw, which I thought was kind of interesting, is that they announced that for the duration of the year, well, I guess starting in October, October through the end of 2024, which is the exact same amount of time that WWE extended its deal for Monday Night Raw on the USA Network, since the Netflix deal does not start until January of next year, which means Raw was going to be homeless for 3 months there unless they worked out some sort of a deal with USA Network, which they did. There's still a relationship with USA. NXT is there now, even though they're leaving. SmackDown just started on Friday, and WWE goes back with USA since like 1981. So I wasn't too concerned about some sort of a deal being worked out to where WWE can stick around on the USA Network, but I wasn't expecting them to scale back the show to 2 hours for the rest of the year. Now, this was, I think it was tweeted out by WWE, or I think it was a tweet by WWE during Raw on Monday that announced this. And the way it was worded said that it's going to go, Monday Night Raw will be 2 hours for the duration of 2024. And so in my mind, that told me that it's not permanently 2 hours. It's just going to be 2 hours for that TV extension with USA. When they go to Netflix, it'll be back to 3 hours. But that is not set in stone either. None of the stuff on Netflix is set in stone. I don't even think they have fully decided how long the show is going to be. And we don't totally know yet how commercials and ads are going to be worked in. A lot of fans were under the assumption that moving to Netflix means no commercials. You can swear and curse and show titties. No. It doesn't mean that, but they're going to have a lot of leeway, I'm sure. They're going to have a lot of freedoms to do what they haven't done on cable television, but at the end of the day, they still are under a TV PG umbrella. And in terms of commercials, I don't think we're going to see commercials, standard commercials, the way we see now, although that could be. We might see little ad breaks there, like, some of the lower tiers on streaming platforms will make you watch. I just do premium for everything, so I don't have to watch any fucking ads. But I suppose even with a premium tier, you can still be subject to ads on stuff like Monday Night Raw. So if we're thinking that next year, it's just going to be 3 hours of commercial-free Raw, that's not the case. And let's say that it was. Netflix now, we don't have as many ads to worry about, which means the show now is extended. 3 hours of commercial free is a pay-per-view. 3 hours on cable TV is more of like a 2.5 hour show. So if commercials or ads were going to be eliminated completely, you could scale Raw back to 2 hours or maybe 2.5. Or what I think might be fun is to, have the show end whenever the last match ends. Maybe it doesn't end at the same time every week. That is one bad thing about, they had an overrun last night on the USA Network for SmackDown, but when they were on Fox, they had no ability to do that. They haven't really been doing it on Raw, on USA either. So sometimes if you have a big time main event match on Raw, when the finish is coming because the top of the hour is coming. It's always funny how these matches magically seem to end right when the show is supposed to end. So if they're on Netflix now and they don't have to worry about being off at exactly the right time, they might have some of those concerns if, something starts at the top of the hour that fans are going to be changing the channel to, a big game or something, but other than that, why don't we just make it feel a little bit more real and say, oh, Monday Night Raw is going to end when this match is over. That might be kind of fun. So there's a lot, still to be determined with the move to Netflix, but I am excited as hell for it. I'm really excited to see what Raw is going to look like on a streaming platform, Raw being on cable for 32 years by the time it's all said and done, and now moving to streaming. My God, man, times are changing. So that'll be cool. For the rest of the year, we have back to our old school Monday Night Raws, and 2 hours long are just much more easier to sit through and might turn out to be more fun. So it's kind of cool that they're doing this, because this also is going to act as a little bit of a test. If it appears that the fans are much happier with a 2 hour show, they might try to make the Netflix show 2 hours. Since they got scaled back ads anyway, they'll have more time to do this. Or, a little bit over 2 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2 hours, 30 minutes every week. Could be fun. And I think they'll test the feedback from the audience on these 2 hour Raws for the rest of the year. But I don't believe that will start until October. So we still have a couple of weeks of the 3 hour Raws left. Here's possibly my favorite rumor of the week. This is just a rumor. Nobody that I consider credible has reported this at all, so take it just as a rumor. But rumors are WWE might be cutting ties with the horrific Def Rebel at the end of the contract, which apparently is 2024. No real credible reports reporting this, other than a while back, Fightful Select had a report out where they were acknowledging that WWE is aware of the fan dislike for Def Rebel. And reportedly, their contract is up at the end of the year, and WWE plans on not renewing this. I pray to the baby Jesus that this is true, because Def Rebel's horrible. I guess some of the rumors are saying they're going to go moving to more mainstream artists from now on, which is great, but I still think you need in-house music. You still need an in-house composer or an in-house band or something like that, because you can't run to mainstream bands for every theme you need, especially if you need a place-holding theme, or if you got somebody debuting and you just need to throw them out there with something, and that type of thing. So I still think you need to have a music department, but this particular act that's been handling the WWE themes for the past few years has been dog shit. So I am very happy to hear that this is a possibility. I hope that they are gone, and they are gone for good at the end of the year, and we never have to hear their shitty fucking music. And you guys help me, because CFOs were very good. They had some fucking classics, the Bobby Roode and Shinsuke and Sammy and, all these guys. What are some good Def Rebels? Because I'm not even sure. I just know all the music just feels very uninspiring. But do they have any current songs right now that any of you in the chat would consider good? Because there's some that I don't hate. I mean, they have themes that I don't necessarily hate, but some of them, I don't know. They did Jey Uso's, right? His has a lot of energy. Crowd reacts to that. And, so you got some good ones out there. But the way they like to have somebody speak before the music starts, all that shit that they do is exhausting, and I'm so happy that they are possibly leaving. Oh, King Ozzy, Cody and Roman might lose at Bad Blood. I actually might say yes to that. Actually, I might say no. I might say no to Bad Blood and yes to War Games. Like if The Rock comes back and helps the new bloodline beat Roman and Jay and Sammy and Jimmy and possibly even Cody. I don't know. Tough call on that one. We'll talk more about that here soon and when we get into the SmackDown. We should also talk about a fun little tidbit coming out of Greg Gagne's podcast. Mike Witt, are you here? Apparently Greg Gagne's got a podcast. Holy shit. And Magnum TA was on it with him. And during this latest episode of his, he had mentioned his old buddy, Jesse the Body Ventura, that the deal, Jesse, we did hear that Jesse did sign a Legends deal with WWE. He was also in Raw when they were in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago. And Jesse recently did an interview, too, with Chris Van Vliet, where he brought Karrion Kross on to do the Jesse impression. Great stuff. Jesse, he's getting older, but he's still very sharp, still very fun to listen to. And apparently, according to Greg Gagne, Jesse the Body Ventura is going to be involved in WWE's revamping of Saturday Night's Main Event, which the first episode, I believe, is in December, and that's going to be on NBC. So Jesse is going to go back to the commentary booth on Saturday Night's Main Event. The last time he sat and did commentary on a Saturday Night's Main Event was probably late 1989. Maybe early 1990. But he was gone in 1990, and I'm pretty sure he worked all of those in the 80s and 90s there. But that's going to be crazy to hear his voice on a Saturday Night's Main Event in 2024. And for you members out there, I know I've been slacking on those SNMEs. I will try to pick those up and try to get those watch-alongs burned out so we can try to blow through the entire series, because WWE's bringing it back. And to hear Jesse on the call is going to bring back all the feels, man. How about this one? Armando Alejandro Estrada has signed a Legends deal. Correct me if I'm wrong. Legends deals are for legends, right? The reason I know this is because it says Legends in the name Legends deal, which makes me assume it's reserved for legends. So I don't know what the fuck this story is about. Moving on. Here's some good news. WWE is scaling back live events. End of an era. Now, they've already been doing this. They are no longer the traveling circus that they used to be. And I am so happy to see the business transition out of this. Live events are pointless now. Back in the 80s, back in the 90s, they were crucial to WWE's success. In the 80s, WWE was, Vince was taking WWE National. He was venturing into all those territories, taking his traveling group of fucking misfits from town to town, territory to territory, state to state, city to city, nationalizing WWE, putting them on cable television and just expanding. Then when they got rolling, that was their bread and butter. Their bread and butter was live event ticket sales, traveling the country, selling out these big arenas and collecting the ticket money. And that was still a big part of their business all through the 90s. I went to a ton of house shows in the Attitude Era. Those bitches would sell the fuck out, man. But as years have gone on and content consumption has changed and business has changed and revenue streams have changed, WWE's top revenue stream was from live events and pay-per-views. And they have found other ways to get paid for that stuff now. Now the money is in media rights deals. Now the money is striking up deals with countries like Saudi Arabia and getting big time money from media platforms for the rights to your shows, and streaming platforms for the rights to your pay-per-views. And they've been pulling in all of these billions. What the fuck do you need house shows for anymore? You don't need these. You don't need them. You know, sure, you can do some super shows that'll still bring in 10,000 fans, but fuck, that's a drop in the bucket compared to the billions that, you know, you've got NBC Universal and Fox and Peacock and Warner Brothers Discovery and all these, you know, platforms throwing at pro wrestling. You don't really need house shows anymore, you know, and having no house shows has its problems because you can't sharpen your, you know, tools and hone your craft and get experience and mileage and that type of thing that can really help out, especially when you're younger. But when you're older, it's wear and tear on your body. It's unnecessary wear and tear. And think about how many catastrophic injuries we've seen at house shows. Remember Seth Rollins' big title win at WrestleMania 31? How'd that end? Tore his knee at a house show. Paige, a.k.a. Saraya, retired. Why? Got kicked in the back of the head at a house show. You guys can probably name a fuck ton of other examples where people have gotten injured at live events. I think maybe Charlotte too, maybe. Didn't she have one? We've got a lot of bad injuries at live events. And a lot of times they can really screw up what kind of creative stuff you're doing if you have injuries there. So, you run your big angles on TV, on Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views, but then during the week, the talent is traveling and you got to sit there and hold your breath that none of these people tear an ACL or anything. So I'm happy that live events are scaled back just for the health of the talent, just that now I don't have to worry about Cody Rhodes blowing out an Achilles, in buttfuck Iowa on a Thursday night house show, So this is all really, really, I think, good and necessary for WWE going forward and how their production and their presentation has changed over the years. Now it was a Goldman Sachs and Technology Conference this past Wednesday where Mark Shapiro kind of made this announcement about continuing to trim their quote marginally profitable non-televised live events that Vince McMahon loved to run for so many years. So this is a big change. This is a big change in WWE's philosophy and business. And I think it's going to be for the better in the long term. Now, I think they can take advantage of having a lot less house shows. They can make the ones that they do super big deals. They can just do every live event a super show. That's what I would do. I would just do every house show that I do or live event that I do, some sort of a super show with all the talent, to where you can sell out a big building and make it fun and actually make your live events fun. And I think the live events have gotten a lot better in the past, few years. It's been a long time. I have not been to a house show since probably like 1999. It's been a long time since I've been to a house show. And in those days, a lot of times I would hit town in a row, 2 or 3 towns in a row for house shows. And a lot of those shows would be largely the same. The wrestlers really just goofing off, having fun in there. No angles are shot, no title change. It's just a night of fun. It's a night to take your kid, your 5-year-old who doesn't know the fucking difference between Raw or a live show or a house show, and take him to the show so he can see his favorites. So he can see Rhea Ripley. Well, she doesn't have all her makeup on. I wonder why, because it's a fucking house show. So those back in the day felt like a lot more just walked through. Nothing ever happened. The production was bad, dim lights. They just used the house speakers for the wrestling music. And I used to go to these shows when Stone Cold Steve Austin was on top. And when Stone Cold Steve Austin is on top and WWE doesn't bring in their own audio, you have to rely on the audio of the arena. And I can't tell you how many entrances I saw of Stone Cold Steve Austin where it sounded like he had no music at all. All you heard was the fans. That's it. It was like a 1970s match where Austin just comes to the ring. You can't hear any of his theme song at all because the crowd overwhelms the house audio. So live events suck. They're a pain in the ass. They're a pain in the ass for the talent. They're pointless to pay a ticket for and go to. And I'm glad that they are scaling back, coming to an end. And that way, when you do make them and you do hold them, they can actually mean something. Hold 4, 5, or 6 super shows a year randomly around the country. That's all you got to do. Fucking crush it on those shows. Sell them out, man. Book some crazy ass match. That's it. And scale down the crazy travel. And it's still not going to make life super easy for the talent. They're still traveling their asses off. There's a lot more international shows now. So even with the scaling back of live events, I don't know how much it's really going to ease the travel and the schedule of the talent. It's probably going to ease it a little bit, but it's not like their workload's been cut in half or anything like that. This is just something that needs to be done for business because they don't make a whole lot of sense anymore. They don't. WWE's pulling in too much money from other places to where live events are something that are necessary for the business to thrive. It's not. So I'm glad that they are getting rid of them things. Let me see. TNA had Victory Road last night. Caught a few clips of that. Looks like Bradshaw showed up. He's been turning up a lot lately. Showed up in Mexico, and I think this is the second TNA show he's appeared on. I think he got involved in the main event, I believe. And the main event was Nick Nemeth defeating Moose. We had Jordan Grace beating NXT's Wendy Chu. So the crossover there, still very cool to see. The Hardy Boys picked up a win. They were on the show as well. Joe Hendry defeated Josh Alexander last night as well. What else happened? Mike Santana made an appearance. I think he was made an appearance in the same match JBL got involved in. So that was cool. And looks like TNA had a pretty fun pay-per-view last night. So those of you who watch TNA, I don't. But I don't have anything against them. I enjoy the crossover with NXT. And I wish that company the best, man. I really do. I had some nasty things to say about them years ago. But, man, it's just cool to see them still plugging along, not giving up. And still managing to, not only have a roster that's respectable, like super respectable, good wrestlers there, but also, still doing business. People still watch them and pay money to see them, shit like that. Now their crossover and working agreement with the WWE is only going to help them. So really happy for them. Right on. That pretty much does it for my... Yeah, that pretty much does it for my wrestling news. I will, before we get into, finally, last night's SmackDown, I will check and see what y'all are saying here in the chat and knock out a couple super chats that have been coming in. Message deleted by Zane G. I don't know what you were telling me, Zane. Good to see Brian Spencer in here as well. I feel like I should say hello to other people like... John Woodmass, who believes in Joe Hendry. So do I. King Aza, I see Roman getting pinned by Jacob at Bad Blood. I do not. That would be awesome. I don't see it. But man, Roman and Jacob, they are making them a thing. Right now, I think Roman and Jacob possibly could be penciled in for WrestleMania if you really want to book it right. But if he were to get pinned by Jacob at Bad Blood, there's no match to do right after that because then they're going to go into War Games. The only match there is to do after that might be Crown Jewel. Is there another Saudi show in between Bad Blood and Survivor Series? There's a lot of time in between those two shows. So if there is a Saudi show, then maybe you could have Jacob pinning Roman, which would mean Roman got pinned in his last 2 matches, which would be mind-blowing. And then you turn around and do Jacob Fatu versus Roman Reigns in Saudi. Roman beats him. Then you go into War Games where you do the War Games match. I think the only possibility I see for Jacob to pin Roman is if you turn around and do a Jacob and Roman match right away. Otherwise, I'd hold off on something like that. Daniel Mendiola, good to see you, man. Appreciate the $2. Hey, Greg, been a minute. Life's been keeping me busy. Ain't that the truth? Me too, man. Me too. Let's see. Spartan Sprinkles, good to see you. Be Easy Ian, Philip Honor, and Barry MK. Welcome. Good to see you. Getting my shout outs done. Chris Ludek, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate the $5 from you. I think Jacob Fatu should pin Roman at Hell in the Cell to build a War Games where OG Bloodline and Sammy take on the new Bloodline. Yeah, see, I'm going to just reiterate what I just said. I don't think Jacob should pin Roman if your next match is War Games. I think Jacob should pin Roman if your next match is a one-on-one, which that maybe if there's a Saudi show in there, that could be a spot for that. If not, then, you maybe on SmackDown or something. I don't know what they would do, but I feel like Roman and Jacob is a big match for a pay-per-view. So pinning Roman would set that up. Pinning Roman would then really create natural dissension between Jacob and Solo, you would think as well. So I'm not going to say I'm against it because I've shot it down twice now, Jacob pinning Roman, but I feel like Roman's going to have to get that win back sooner rather than later. They're not going to wait 6 months until WrestleMania to do that. So it just depends on what they have planned throughout the rest of the year, what's going to happen at Survivor Series and whatnot. And we do know and feel like it's going to be some sort of a bloodline civil war at Survivor Series. Okay, thank you. Randy Peace says Crown Jewel November 2nd. So if Crown Jewel is November 2nd, and that's what's happening, then yeah, I agree. Having Jacob Fatu pin Roman Reigns at Bad Blood and then turning around and doing Roman and Jacob at Crown Jewel, that's going to put a loss on Jacob, but at least it's a loss to Roman Reigns. He's not exactly the worst guy to lose to. So I'm sure fans will still say he's buried because they're idiots. But otherwise, I mean, just do it there. And then you can go into the Survivor Series match. And then maybe that's where you have the heels win. Maybe that's where you reveal that it's The Rock pulling the strings here. And he does something at Survivor Series to cost the OG bloodline, and he aligns with the new bloodline. And that's some big angle that drops. And maybe it's The Rock. Maybe it's The Rock and Jacob Fatu in the ring putting the boots to Cody and Roman, and those are going to be your 2 WrestleMania matches. It's going to be Cody and The Rock. I'm starting to feel like it's going to be Cody and The Rock. They had that whole conversation the night after WrestleMania, and Rock put whatever the fuck that was in his hand, and that cryptic crap. So I feel like right now Rock and Cody is more likely than Rock and Roman at this point. So Roman might be working with Solo or I'm sorry, with Jacob at WrestleMania. It just depends. We will find out. But we're going to talk about SmackDown right now because it was a brand new era on SmackDown. They debuted on the USA Network last night, which I'm very happy with because I live on the West Coast. So this whole time over the past 5 years that SmackDown has been on Fox, I've never been able to watch the show live if I find myself home on a Friday night. I have to wait until 8 p.m. local time to watch it on Fox. So I've had to rely on streaming and whatnot or illegal streams to watch it if I'm ever home. But now that it's on the USA Network, the streaming platform that I use to watch cable channels does play Raw, SmackDown, and Dynamite all live for me now at 5 p.m. here on the West Coast. And I'm so happy they have made this move and gotten the F off of Fox. Now, they have a new logo. Looks like it says Smack Sound, sort of. It's, kind of a mashup of all their old, logos. Still looks somewhat the same, silver and blue. And they did have a new intro. Not really a new set, which they've already kind of scaled down both sets a little bit. And I like what they're doing with Raw and SmackDown right now in that regard because it doesn't feel so obnoxiously over the top. But we did get a new logo and a new intro sang by Cardi the Stallion or whatever the fuck. So I don't know anything about that. The music didn't really feel like it fit wrestling, but it might grow on me. And I'm not one of these fans. There's nothing worse than one of these fans that just feel like the only songs ever for pro wrestling have to be hard rock bullshit. Doesn't always have to be that. There have been some bangers. There have been some great hard rock or metal wrestling themes in WWE. There's been some shit ones. That SmackDown one last time, are you ready for a good time? Fuck you. That was awful. Fuck them. Fuck AC/DC. So they're not all good, but sometimes they just feel like they don't really fit. So I don't know. It's one song. I don't know anything about Megan Thee Stallion. Nothing at all about her. So I can't judge her because I don't know shit about her, but I know she's famous as all hell. And I know everybody in the world except for me knows who she is. So the song didn't really do it for me. The intro didn't really do it for me. I don't care what genre of music it is. My thing is about energy. It's you're bringing us into a wrestling show. So whether it's hip hop or rap or metal or rock or whatever, just have some energy, some explosiveness to it. Something about it that's like, oh, fuck yeah, it's Friday, baby. That type of thing. This song does not give me that feeling at all. Neither does the one on Raw. Raw and SmackDown, neither one of them given me that feeling in many, many years. When was the last time you got hyped up by a Raw or SmackDown theme? Because before the shitty Raw ones we've had lately, it was fucking Nickelback. So we have not had good luck with Raw and SmackDown themes lately in the past few years, in my opinion. So this is just another one that we can just be underwhelmed by. That's all this is. But it is a new intro. And we had some interesting production stuff. Very crisp and clean looking match graphics. God, those looked so good. Triple H came out to welcome everyone to the show, which I did like because I feel like, Triple H has been doing this lately. He's been coming out at the beginning of, a few pay-per-views and big moments and monumental moments in WWE. And I actually think that's fine. When he came out in SummerSlam and soaked it all up, people were like, what an ego on this guy. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go that far and say that's all ego. He just wants to come out and hear the cheers. The dude heard 35 years of cheers. I don't know if it's just for that. I feel that the fans, WWE might understand that it's important for the fans to have somebody, to have a Vince-like figure. We don't really know how to navigate through a pro wrestling world without knowing who the dude in charge is. So, with Triple H now assuming the role that Vince McMahon was in, at least, from, a representation level. He doesn't have the same power as Vince. He doesn't wear all the same hats as Vince. He's not the sole owner of the company, but he is the guy driving the creative machine, which was also a hat that Vince McMahon wore. And Triple H also, works closely with the talent. He's the one making the primary day-to-day decisions in the company, at least creatively, by what you see. And he's a person that the fans are familiar with. We're familiar with Triple H as a wrestler, just like we were familiar with Vince McMahon as a announcer. So I think it's important for WWE to kind of maybe continue that tradition, not bringing Triple H on TV to be, directly involved in storylines like Vince always was. I don't think Triple H is really ever going to do that. He's had that heart condition. He's never going to get physical again. And that might actually be a blessing in disguise. The fact that Triple H probably medically can never compete in the ring. He doesn't have to worry about that temptation. Or should I involve myself here? This be a good time for me to come in and get a SummerSlam match against Cody or something. None of that is on the table. So he can focus, his stuff on creatively what he's doing in the company. There's never going to be a worry about him jumping in the ring. So I don't think, and we have Pierce and Aldis in place, we have the two most solid general managers in my mind the company's ever had. You can point to Teddy and Bischoff, and they were good. But in terms of just being solid, real, actual commissioners that aren't fucking cartoon characters of themselves, Aldis and Pierce are perfect. There's no reason for Triple H to be out there making decisions on TV and getting involved in the storylines on TV. But he also needs to be the figurehead. He needs to be the person that fans know is in charge. So when he comes out occasionally for these big shows, welcoming the fans there, I think that's just it's that little link to the past where the fans are used to having one person that they can turn to or think of that's in charge in WWE. And now it's kind of like a 1-2 punch with Triple H handling the creative stuff, Nick Khan handling a primary portion of the business or most of the business. And they seem to have like a good thing going there. But I still think it's important for fans to see somebody in charge in WWE. Triple H coming out every so often and doing that doesn't upset me whatsoever, especially since he's not getting involved in anything creatively. All he's doing is welcoming us. That's it. He's getting the fuck out of there. So I don't know what the big deal is or why people are shitting on him for that. It was cool to see a lot of legends in the front row. We had Rob Van Dam and his wife was with him. We had Booker T and Sharmell. I think Ron Simmons and Teddy Long were in the crowd as well. And so was Vicky Guerrero, who was a former SmackDown general manager, but with all of the bullshit attached to her name right now, sticking her ass on camera. My God. So she was there. And so was Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser, who were hanging out in the front row as well. There might have been some others, but those are the ones that I noticed. And then, of course, SmackDown last night opened up with a very good cage match between Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. A lot of fans were referencing the Wardlow cage match in AEW with Cody Rhodes, where he did the big moonsault off the cage. And we were wondering if he was going to do something like that, and he did. Cody just looks so funny when he runs and like when his legs are spread and he's about to do a move. He just has this funny body shape. So when he's climbing up to that cage and I see him standing there, and he was facing the crowd. He wasn't even turned the right way. So he's climbing up. He's basically in moonsault position on top of the cage. And I just immediately have AEW flashbacks. I'm like, oh my God, is he really going to move? Is Solo Sikoa worth moonsaulting from a cage onto? My God. I was sitting on the floor. I was like 12 rows behind the announce table when Kurt Angle moonsaulted off the cage in Richmond on Raw in the match with Benoit. I saw that like from the ground up. It was the damnedest things I've ever seen. I cannot imagine moonsaulting off these fucking cages. So Cody Rhodes gets up there and like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And luckily he turns around instead and delivers a high cross body from the top of the cage to Solo. I thought that was going to be the finish. Solo kicked out of that. Cody recovered to hit him with a crossroads for the win and retain the title. Match went, 15, 17 minutes, something like that. And it was pretty good. It wasn't a bad match. I mean, for WWE cage match, where you're not going to see a lot of grittiness, a lot of blood, a lot of violence, it was exciting. And I thought the match was good. And, of course, Cody Rhodes got the win. Now, after the match, in comes the Bloodline. The Tongans are up that cage, climbing up it in seconds. They're in the ring. Jacob, I think, is in there too, and they're putting the boots to Cody Rhodes. And that's when we hear Roman Reigns music. We knew he was going to be on SmackDown last night. He was originally advertised for the show, and then they pulled it. So once they did that, I'm like, oh, they want him to come out and make a save. They want it to appear to be a surprise, but the damage was done. They already advertised him. Everybody knows he's going to fucking be there. And why wouldn't he in a match like this? So, especially when he's already came out and helped Cody once before. But Cody didn't need Roman's help to win the match. He just needed Roman's help at the end. So Roman Reigns' music hits. He comes out, and he's in the ring, and he's wiping out the Tongans. And then there's this awesome stare down with Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns in the cage, and you think they're finally going to go at it, and that's when Solo Sikoa pulls Jacob Fatu's foot and pulls him out of the cage, and they retreat. The Tongans then jump on Roman Reigns, start kicking his ass. Cody then recovers and makes the save for Roman, so they both kind of saved each other in a very, very cool kind of stare down with the two of them. You know, this is what they did in the Attitude Era a lot. A lot of times when, you know, guys were just feuding, they would team up. Austin and Rock did this. How long did it take in 1999 after they wrestled at WrestleMania for the championship? Then they had that match at Backlash, and they feuded, you know, for a couple months prior to that. How long did it take them to team up on Raw? I think they teamed up that summer in like a tag match or something, like May or June. It's Austin and Rock on the same side against Triple H and Big Show or something. I don't know. But that doesn't take long, and they used to do that shit all the time. Only difference is in the Attitude Era, those two guys would often win the tag team championships. We saw that with Austin and Shawn. We saw that with Austin and Taker. We saw that with Austin and Triple H. How many times have main eventers and sometimes feuding main eventers teamed up to win tag team championships? Shawn Michaels and John Cena in 2007. So I'm actually really happy that the contract that we saw signed later on at the closing of the show for Cody and Roman isn't for the tag team titles, because I was like, oh shit, they're going to face the Bloodline and beat them for the tag team titles. But luckily, it's not 1998, it's 2024, and instead the match is going to be against Solo and Jacob Fatu. So you fast forward to the closing segment of SmackDown. SmackDown had an overrun, by the way. They even had credits at the end of the show. Did you notice that? Little credits like executive producer bullshit and stuff. So cool. WCW used to do that back in the day. So Roman's promo at the end of the show, he's out there, and this is the first time we've heard him speak since WrestleMania, remember. So he's got a lot to say. He said he is still the tribal chief. It's still his WWE, and it's still his show. Out comes Cody. What do you mean it's your WWE? It was, but it's not now. And so Cody just kind of came out to remind Roman who the man is now. And then they get attacked from behind by Tama Tonga Loa. Roman and Cody completely obliterate both of them. And Roman has got that contract from, you know, the Nick Aldis and, you know, teasing the tag match for Bad Blood. And Cody's like, you need a partner. Let me be your partner. He extends his hand. Give me the contract. He grabs it from Roman. He signs his name on it. And it will be Cody Rhodes teaming up with Roman Reigns to take on Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu at Bad Blood on October 5th. Now, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, like we just talked about a lot, what should you do here in the finish? Should Jacob Fatu pin Roman Reigns? I say yes, only if you book Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu for Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia on November 2nd. That's the only way I think I would justify Jacob pinning Roman here, is to turn around and do a one-on-one match and have Roman get the win. Now, I also argue you could stretch Roman and Jacob all the way to WrestleMania if you really wanted to. So it just depends on what WWE has planned. But if you book it like Jacob and Solo beat Cody and Roman, and then Roman goes into Crown Jewel to face Jacob and beats him, and then we go into Bad Blood, you could have the heels win again there, with The Rock revealing himself as the puppet master of the new bloodline or something like that. You know, plus it would put Cody and Roman on the losing side twice in a row. They lost at Bad Blood. 2 times they teamed up, they lost. Clearly, they can't coexist. I mean, this is going to be a can they coexist match if there ever was one at Bad Blood. But this is the type of can they coexist that I like, because I'm interested to see how Cody and Roman can work together as respectful, rivals who are facing a common enemy right now. Might be interesting to see the dynamic. A lot of fans want Cody out of the bloodline stuff. I don't mind that he's in it, because Cody is the champion, and the bloodline, occupies and is the home of, the two other biggest stars in the company, in Roman Reigns and The Rock, or the bloodline stuff. So having Cody still being affiliated with it, this long running, 2+ year almost, by the time it's all said and done, issue between Cody and this family, for it to continue, I don't have this itch or desire to say, oh, I want Cody to break away with this and do something else. Well, he just did. He worked with Kevin Owens. And if he did break away from the bloodline stuff, fine. Look at SmackDown right now. Who is there to work with other than Randy Orton? So Randy Orton could be the big possibility once he finally does turn heel. It could be Cody and Randy for the rest of the year in early 2025 before we get to WrestleMania. That would be fun. Now, Cody and Randy, I think, would be a lot of fun for the Royal Rumble. Cody Rhodes is going to have to defend his WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble. Now, granted, that's January, but who on SmackDown right now, barring some sort of trade, would be a worthy enough challenger for a show of that magnitude? So maybe Cody doing bloodline stuff for the rest of the year keeps him away from Randy Orton until you get to the Royal Rumble. Do a Christmas episode, SmackDown. Bloodline stuff's done. War Game stuff is done. They're having a celebratory Christmas episode of SmackDown. And Cody Rhodes, the WWE Champion, is handing out presents to his friends. Saves the best present for last, because Randy Orton, if it weren't for you and you taking me under your wing and bringing me into the legacy and putting me under your learning tree, if it were not for you, I wouldn't be standing here with the WWE Championship. And he starts crying, because you know how Cody loves to cry. And I just love you, and I love your family, and thank you for everything you've done for me. And then gifts Randy Orton some beautiful heirloom or something. Say, this was my dad's. This was my dad's. He owned this. He loved it. But I want you to have it. Like some sort of touching, just overwhelming heart outpouring of love from Cody to Randy, complete with a Christmas present heirloom that his father owned. RKO. On top of the heirloom, and the heirloom shatters into a million pieces. What the fuck? Randy Orton scares everybody else out of the ring. He's a maniac now. Goes on the outside of the ring, gets a steel chair, brings it in the ring, just starts swinging at everybody, puts the steel chair on Cody's head, pulls Cody's head over the apron, climbs to the top rope, and does a leg drop on him. Chopping his head off. Live on, make it just horrific. That could be fun. Then boom, you got your Royal Rumble match. So Randy and Cody, I think, is going to happen, but unless WWE wants to fast track it and maybe do it at Crown Jewel, I think that match is better set for Royal Rumble. Keep Cody busy. You could do Cody and Randy at Survivor Series. You could, but it feels like if Cody is involved with the Bloodline now, he's going to be involved with the Bloodline in November. I think War Games will be kind of the temporary end for that until Cody probably faces The Rock at WrestleMania. So, and that could be set up at Survivor Series. You might set up your Cody and Rock match at WrestleMania right there. But if Cody is going to be champion, how does The Rock get that title shot? He's going to have to win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber or something. So we'll see how they set all that up. But I think Randy and Cody could be a good potential Royal Rumble match. I also think that it would be like I pitched for Kevin Owens, that I would be perfectly fine and would have no issue whatsoever if they did Randy and Cody a little bit early and they did it, maybe at Crown Jewel or something, or even Survivor Series, if Randy took the title from him. Yeah, and then Cody just wins it back. I pitched this for Kevin Owens, remember? I said, what if you do the Sean Sid thing with Cody and Owens, and you bring Arn Anderson in, you have him in the front row, and then during the match, Owens turns heel, attacks Arn Anderson, and Cody is so overwhelmed with Arn safety, that he doesn't care about the match, and he winds up getting blasted with the camera and pop-up powerbomb for the win. Owens wins the title. You do the rematch at the Rumble, just like you did with Shawn and Sid, and Cody gets the belt back and takes it into WrestleMania. I'd have no issue with that. We don't always need to have a year-long run every time somebody wins a title. Back in the day, the WWE title used to change hands after each episode of Seinfeld. Like, it was so frequent. So now doing one where you do a quick 1 to 2 month hot potato with the title, I don't see anything wrong with that. So what I pitched for Owens could also work for Randy Orton. I'd be totally into that. It just depends. Speaking of Randy Orton, so him and Kevin Owens teamed up last night to defeat Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, but there was a little bit of like a Ricky Starks tease there. Kevin Owens introduced his partner Ricky, and he came out, this generic looking bald guy with some really, really disturbing chest hair. And apparently his name was Ricky. And a lot of fans were thinking it's going to be Ricky Starks, that Ricky Starks will be on SmackDown tonight. I kind of like that little trolling that they did. And then Owens breaks it to the kid that he's chosen Randy Orton instead. And so Ricky doesn't even get a chance to really do anything. And it's Randy Orton and Kevin Owens getting the win over Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. We also had Andrade defeating Carmelo. This series of matches have been really fun. This one is a little bit short, though. And Andrade is now, because this was a number one contenders match, he's the new number one contender for LA Knight's U.S. title. The Nia Jax promo was weird. So she's out there, and they're trying to figure out who her opponent's going to be for Bad Blood. So Bayley comes out. She gets on the mic, says some stuff. Tiffany's out there as well. And then Naomi comes out there. So everybody's kind of making their case for a title shot. And then Nia Jax says, okay, how about this? Next week, Bayley and Naomi, you take on me and Tiffany. And whoever gets the win faces me at Bad Blood. So is she giving away the ending? So next week, you two are going to face us, and whichever two of you beat us gets the title shot. That's the way that sounded worded to me. Did I hear that wrong? And I was like, well, what? So you're admitting you're going to lose. Or maybe she delivered the line of dialogue wrong. Maybe there was supposed to be an extra sentence in there. Like, if you beat me, whichever one of you does it gets the title shot. Basically trying to pit them against each other. So her strategy here is put them on the opposite side, making them fight over who gets to pin one of us. And of course, that's going to lead to their demise, and we'll wind up winning the match. But she said, whichever one of you beats me. She didn't say, if one of you beats me. She says, whichever one of you beats me gets the title shot, is basically what she said. I just thought it just sounded weird. I don't know. So sounds like next week, Bayley or Naomi is going to probably pin Tiffany, and they'll get a title shot at Nia Jax at Backlash. Or some crazy shit will happen and Nick Aldis will come out and just make a triple threat. Or four-way. Because Tiffany, with that briefcase, I feel like the story they're telling here is that she is going to cash in on Nia Jax. So whenever they want to do that, that's fine. Now that they have a story, see, before I was like, I want Tiffany to hang on to that briefcase for as long as they want her to. They burned off one of the Money in the Banks early. So if you want a briefcase on television for creative purposes, then you need to have this one last a little while. So maybe early next year. But really, I only say that because I want them to do it at the right time. Well, they're telling a pretty good story here with Tiffany and Nia Jax. And right now, storyline-wise, it makes the most sense for Tiffany to cash in on Nia Jax. So at this point, they can do it whenever they want. I still think they have plenty of time. You don't have to do it at Bad Blood, but you could. You could also do it at Survivor Series, or you could have the Tiffany and Nia Jax relationship continue, and Nia Jax being, not necessarily abusive, but she's, doesn't treat Tiffany very well. And eventually, Tiffany will get some revenge for that. We also saw Nick Aldis, I think, was backstage talking to Kathy Kelly, and behind him, you could see a Wyatt 6 logo. So that's kind of interesting if they infiltrate SmackDown in any way. And maybe it's an early storyline storyline for Survivor Series or something. I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, this faction is so bizarre. I mean, can they really be drafted? They are a Raw act, but they were never technically drafted to Raw. I don't think, right? They didn't, in storyline, they never signed Raw contracts. So they could technically go wherever they want, and maybe they can just start showing up on both shows. Maybe. All right, so that was your SmackDown in a nutshell last night. Honestly, they didn't make it feel like as big of a SmackDown as they did when they moved to Fox. Now, I was at that show in LA, and that debacle of a title match between Kofi Kingston and Brock Lesnar was horrible. And the ending with what's-his-face coming out, Cain Velasquez. I think they had Tyson Fury in the crowd. The Rock was there. He showed up that night, and it felt like a much bigger of a deal. This felt like a typical SmackDown. It just had, a pretty good cage match, title match to open up the show, which was a lot of fun. But otherwise, kind of a typical SmackDown, but I'm still excited for their move to the USA Network. This past week on Raw, we watched it together Monday night. We saw Jey Uso win the Fatal 4-Way in the main event to become the number one contender for Braun Breaker's IC title. I'm guessing that match will happen at Bad Blood, but I don't think they've announced it quite yet. We also, of course, had the Hell in the Cell match made official by Adam Pearce. It'll be Drew McIntyre taking on CM Punk. McIntyre was on Raw, Punk was not. And he got in the face of Wade Barrett a little bit, so we'll see if Wade Barrett might get back in the ring. I mean, I don't know what the point of teasing that was, unless they're setting up, an excuse for Drew to lose if he's going to be giving Barrett some problems on television, and then maybe at Hell in the Cell, Barrett does something to help Punk win, or maybe, they're probably going to find themselves out of the cage at some point. So if they get out of the cage, maybe Barrett does something to McIntyre, allowing Punk to get the win. Who do you think is going to win the blow-off in that, by the way? CM Punk or Drew McIntyre? Who should win? Who should win? You know how I love that word, right? Should. So let me know. We also, on Raw, saw Bret Hart in the ring, and we knew he was going to be involved with Gunther. We just knew it. So Gunther was out there along with Sami Zayn. Also on Raw, very nice tribute to those hockey brothers that were tragically killed in that drunk driving accident. Very emotional stuff there from Jackie Redmond and the company, and very cool to see Sammy out in that jersey for Calgary. But Bret being out there with Sammy and Gunther was a lot of fun, and Gunther with the pop of the week, letting Bret Hart know that Bret Hart was only his second favorite wrestler. His favorite wrestler of all time is none other than Bill Goldberg. I loved that. That got such a pop from the audience. It was so much fun. And I'm the biggest Bret Hart fan ever, but that was the coolest thing Gunther has ever said. Cool to see the little video too on social media of Bret Hart and Triple H exchanging pleasantries backstage. I think Bret has never, I've always felt like Bret has hated Triple H more than Shawn for the screw job. I think he blames Triple H as much as he blames Shawn. And Wrestling with Shadows, Julie was chewing him out in the hallway. And Bret's never really spoken kindly of Triple H either on shoot interviews and podcasts and whatnot. But they put the bullshit behind him. I got to give props to Triple H because he would have every reason to blackball Bret. Like, goddamn, every time that guy opens up his mouth about me, he's got some snarky thing to say about me. But Triple H also is the one running WWE now, and he has to put the best interest of WWE ahead of his own personal feelings sometimes. And you want Bret Hart, you want this legend as a part of your Legends family, and when you're in his town, you need to invite him to the show. So Triple H does that, and they still put Bret Hart on TV. He still generates a reaction. Fans still love him. He's my only favorite wrestler I've ever had in my whole life, and I've always loved Bret. And so Triple H and Bret kind of tolerating each other is, kind of nice to see, because I think Bret made his peace with Shawn, but I'm not sure if he really did with Triple H. And Triple H has spoken up and taken credit for being the one to bring it up. Like, let's just take the belt from him. So I think there's still some feelings there, but it was kind of cool to see him shake hands and just exchange nice words. It's cool. I was in the fourth row the night of the miniature Bret Hart on Raw, right after the screw job, when Triple H is holding him back and they're doing all that shit to him. And just to see these guys shaking hands now and where these two guys are in their lives compared to 1997, Man, I'm getting old. Shout out to Jersey Mike's, by the way. So that pretty much is all we saw on Raw, and we also got the announcement on Monday about that 2-hour switch for the rest of 2024. So here's what we got for Bad Blood. It's going to be Cody and Roman Reigns taking on Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell match. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley for the Women's Championship, and Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. They could add Jey Uso and Braun Breaker. They could also add Andrade and Carmelo as well, because of the number one contenders match on SmackDown. Excuse me. So we will see if they do those US and IC matches on TV, or if these are going to make the pay-per-view. Also, might see a women's tag on there as well. And, oh, I'm sorry. It's also Gunther and Sammy, right? Have they made that match official? It's going to be Gunther versus Sammy too, right? At Bad Blood? Pretty sure it is. Yeah, so I guess that's 5. Gunther versus Sammy. I don't know why I'm writing that in. It's stupid. So yeah, Gunther and Sammy. So yeah, about 5 matches, and they'll probably stick another one on there. Hopefully, otherwise, we've got our 5, and Triple H loves them 5-match cards. Just depends on what they're doing. All right, we can transition into a little bit of Dynamite now. I want to talk about this wacky-ass show and what is going to be happening at Grand Slam now. But before we do, let me just reset here. There's a couple of more comments I want to answer. My boy Kevin, K-Dog's Kennel, cheer to another month with a Fall Brawl 93 watch-along happening tomorrow. I ask, what is your favorite Fall Brawl event? The 92, the Wrestle War 92. That fucking match. Easily my favorite. Awesome stuff. Always good to see you in here, Kevin. Jacob Bay, what's up, man? With the possibility of Royal Rumble going to 2 nights, do you think that Money in the Bank and Survivor Series could follow? Yeah, I mean, nothing's off limits now, or nothing's off the table, I don't believe. And Royal Rumble would make the most sense because you got 2 Royal Rumbles. You could do the women's on night 1, men's on night 2, and, maybe put your big championship match, the Cody belt on the line, in the women's Rumble night. You can decide. It doesn't have to be women's night 1, men's night 2. It could be men's night 1. It could be men's night 1 and like the women's championship on night 1, men's Rumble match and like the women's championship match on night 1, then the women's Rumble on night 2 with the men's championship match. Like you could do that. Why not? At this point, I think business is changing. Everything's changing, and adapt or die. So I'm into it. Terry Allen, appreciate the $3. Grayson Waller says, say so, theme is head moving. Okay. Oh, Grayson Waller, his theme is head moving. I'll have to listen to Waller's theme. I can't even think of it. But see, there's a lot of themes. I think that's the problem with Def Rebel. No themes stand out to me. I don't even pay attention to themes anymore. Back in like the 90s, that was like part of the whole thing. There's a few kick-ass themes. I love Cody's, and I love Roman's, and I love Rock's, and Kevin Owens, and Sammy's, and there's some good ones out there. But overall, a lot of if Grayson Waller or Austin Theory, I have no clue what either of their theme songs sound like. Couldn't even think of them. Couldn't even try to sing them. Like Nia Jax, I don't know what her theme sounds like. So when you just start not caring what they sound like, means that they don't stand out. There's nothing about them that's memorable or enjoyable to listen to. And there's a lot of generic sounding themes in the company right now. So, in the Jim Johnson era, shit stuck out at you. It just jumped out at you, and you associated it so closely with that wrestler. And those feelings are just gone now. So it only exists with a few pieces of talent, not all of them like it used to. So there is some good ones, and I'm glad you guys are giving me some recommendations. 5 more from Chris. Appreciate that. Maybe at Hell in the Cell. Then Solo can pin Roman, so the new tribal chief pins the original, and that is the build to War Games. That also works, because how can Solo continue to call himself the tribal chief when he's losing his matches and Jacob is winning his? And he's trying to control Jacob, making him his enforcer. The WrestleMania match might not be Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. It might be Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa at WrestleMania. They might be building to that, but that also works. I mean, nobody likes Solo. Everybody's just shitting on Solo, But when he was the enforcer in the bloodline, everybody liked Solo. Everybody was thinking that he was going to be the one to beat Roman's ass one of these days, especially with some of the looks that he was giving Roman Reigns. And people were saying, fans were saying, you better watch out, Roman. You know, you don't want none of this guy. And now that he's walking around as the tribal chief, they're like, fuck him. So I don't know if the fans even know what they want sometimes. But now Jacob Fatu, who's a much more exciting performer than Solo Sikoa, is in the same position that Solo was in when he was with Roman. And I think a lot of fans, you know, naturally want to see that become a story beat. And I think that it will for sure. K-Dog, 2 from you, my friend. Should Liv versus Rhea be inside Hell in the Cell at Bad Blood? You could justify it, sure. I think so. I don't think that it is. I think it would already be announced if it was. And I think Hell in the Cell, they don't want this to be a Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, you know? Like, so one I think is enough. And that's why I've wanted this for so long for the Hell in the Cell. WWE is doing what I was screaming for them to do for what, 6-7 years on this channel? I was like, get rid of the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. It's so stupid. The Hell in the Cell is a great match. Just use it when you need it. That's it. You don't need a pay-per-view dedicated to it. You don't need to spray paint the fucking thing red. Just take this match that's a good tool for a blow-off and use it when you have a feud or storyline or angle that warrants it. Simple. Not hard, not complicated. And it's nice to see WWE doing that again. So if they were to put 2, I wouldn't do that. I would put Liv and Rhea can do a Hell in the Cell match, but maybe in a few months when their storyline blows off. But maybe not here. So I think if you were to have 2 Hell in the Cell matches on this pay-per-view, it would feel like a Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. So I say no, but given the personal nature of the rivalry between those two, you could certainly make a case for it because, you know, we got women stealing men from other women and stuff. That's fighting shit right there. So hell yeah. Seth and The Fiend ruined the Hell in the Cell event. Yeah, they kind of did, but it's not our fault. I think Triple H is trying to bring it back to life. Hey, it's silver again. Don't forget, they were in the red fence. We got the silver fence again. I'll never forget walking into WrestleMania 39 last year in SoFi and like walking to my seat. And one of the first things I noticed was that big, beautiful silver fence. I'm like, oh my God, it's not red. That's so great. I was so happy. So happy. Anyway, let's transition now briefly and talk about Wednesday's Dynamite. Not everything. I'm not going to bore you and review the whole show, but there was a couple of interesting things going down, and I want to talk about it. We saw Jack Perry. He defeated Lio Rush. Really fun opener for the TNT title and a fun match. Jack Perry and Lio Rush. Lio Rush can still do shit that I've just never seen before. Excuse me. So Perry wins with a knee strike, retaining his TNT championship. Because I have a helicopter flying overhead. Okay, it's gone. We had the new BCC, the new and improved, the new look Blackpool Combat Club, interfere and attack a tag team match involving Private Party and Commander, beat the hell out of those guys. And then Pac gets on the mic and says that diplomacy has failed and this company is ours. So it's more of that, this company is ours shit. So more hints, cryptic stuff. We saw a terrific one-on-one match between Ricochet and Sammy Guevara. My God, talk about a dream match. At one point, Sammy moonsaulted off the tunnel onto Ricochet. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. In the end, Ricochet got the win. There was a little post-match activity there and a show of respect with Sammy and Ricochet. And something I was thinking about as we saw AEW start immediately teasing Ricochet and Will Ospreay. We know we're going to get that match at some point. Now, it's not going to happen at Grand Slam because Ospreay's already booked for that, but Wrestle Dream is still open, and so is any other pay-per-view for the rest of the year. And I kind of think that if you are going to book an Ospreay versus Ricochet match, I think Ricochet should win. I think AEW, if they're going to sign this free agent, pay him all this money, I think they should at least, they might not be successful, but I think they should at least try to do with Ricochet what WWE did with Cody, to where they take a guy and they say, look, idiots, here's how you book him, you know? And I feel like WWE, the minute they got their hands on Cody, they just got it. They just get the minute, guys. The moment he walked out there at WrestleMania 22, I'm like, oh shit, this is the real deal. He didn't feel like that at all in AEW. And with Ricochet, maybe that's their attempt. Because a lot of fans are thinking, well, if Ricochet goes to AEW, he's just going to do the same shit he's doing in WWE, just booked kind of the same way at the same level. You might be right. So if you're Ricochet, you want to try to make sure that you're not booked at that level. And that if Tony Khan is going to bring you in, he is going to give you an opportunity to work on the main event level. So I think one way to avoid Ricochet falling into that category of just doing what he was doing in WWE, he needs to beat Ospreay. He needs to establish himself right off the bat as somebody that can beat their top stars. That way later on, if Will Ospreay becomes AEW World Champion, that's going to be his first opponent right there. Ricochet, rematch. This time Ospreay beats him. And you elevate Ricochet as somebody that can, on any day of the week, challenge for and win that AEW championship. And if you really want to get nuts, we can talk about putting the belt on Ricochet, although I'm not sure if I'm really into that. From a charisma perspective, the problem with Ricochet is he has none. But he's awesome performer. He's a great dude. Want nothing but the best for him. But, when it comes to, being a character, things he can do, say on the mic, and the drama that he can bring to his storylines, he is not Swerve Strickland, so we'll see. But I think that you can make a case for Ricochet to beat Ospreay because Ospreay's a made man. Ospreay's kind of low key my favorite wrestler in the world right now. And even I'm saying Ricochet should beat him that way, because Ospreay, he's established, and arguably Ricochet is too. He's arguably been on the bigger stage, but there's something about Ospreay you can tell. This guy's main eventer. This guy's always going to be a big part of AEW, so he can easily suffer a loss that's not really going to harm him in the grand scheme of things, where if you put the loss on Ricochet, that's just going to get everybody talking about how he should have stayed in WWE. So I vote that Ricochet, when they face, beats Ospreay and wins that international title. I think that's the best way to start him out. And then Ospreay can still go on to do a whole lot of stuff. He's teaming up with Kyle Fletcher. Don Callis cashed in a favor. Maybe the Callis family can kind of play into him even losing that championship or something. But I think Ricochet should beat him. We had Jon Moxley. This is where it was weird. Now, Moxley was out earlier when the BCC attacked the tag team match, and Pac said a few words on the mic. Moxley didn't say anything. But he's back here in the ring now, and he's been making it clear that he wants to have a conversation with Darby Allin. Darby was on the show, so Darby comes out first. I think he calls out Moxley, and they're both in the ring, and Moxley starts talking to Darby, telling him how he's not, worthy of being a champion, and that he's going to need Darby Allin to hand over his title shot. And Darby, after just cutting a very passionate promo, he's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Did you not hear anything I just said? He goes, are you drinking again? And that got the crowd going like, ooh, that was kind of crazy. And that Moxley says that this is where it kind of gets confusing because we already know that Darby has a title shot that is supposed to happen at Grand Slam. So Moxley is out there saying, well, Bryan Danielson's not cleared. The champ isn't cleared, so you're not going to wrestle him anyway. So I'm going to need you to hand over that championship match to me so I can face Danielson when he's healthy. And then Darby's like, no, go fuck yourself. So then Moxley said, okay, if you want me to earn it, fine. Here's what we'll do. It'll be me versus you at Grand Slam with your title shot on the line. And he goes, because I want you to listen to me real good. You have no idea what's going on. And maybe something like, I can't explain it to you. And this is like the third or fourth time now he's dropped some sort of, you don't even have the first clue what's really going on here type of line. So how many times can you keep saying that shit without us, and it not be Shane McMahon at this point? I mean, I'm fully convinced. I think at some point, Wrestle Dream, whatever, probably when Moxley faces Danielson. And that's what you have to wonder here. When you watch the way this all unfolded, it appears like there's been a change in the creative. It was going to be Darby. I mean, that's AEW's fault. They gave out way too many advanced title shots. You got Christian sitting on one, then Darby won that one, He won 2 title shots on the same fucking TV taping. He's got title shots out the ass. So now it feels like there's a creative change. So could it be that Shane McMahon has worked the deal out? He's coming in. He's ready to show up pretty much any time. So they're pivoting, and they're going to get Moxley a title shot so he faces Danielson at Wrestle Dream. And maybe Shane McMahon shows up there and helps Moxley beat Danielson in his home fucking town, retiring him. Moxley and Shane, a Shane World Order. I mean, what other explanation could there be for them making like such a drastic change? Because it's not like Danielson's really injured. He's going to work at Grand Slam, as we would find out in the next segment that I'm going to talk about. So this whole damn thing felt convoluted, and it's kind of a good example of how AEW can kind of confuse the fuck out of you sometimes, but it might be for good reason. If they're pivoting for whatever reason and they're changing what might have been their initial plans for Wrestle Dream, then it might be because of Shane McMahon. And, you know, you got to think about Christian. He's still got that contract and how that's going to play in. I don't want him winning the title, but I suppose, you know, maybe he could, unless he's involved with the Shane McMahon stuff too. I don't know, but it feels like the more and more of these hints, these like, you don't know what's going on here type of thing. And Moxley just seems very different. He's got a different vibe. He's got his new Japan music now, which is, you know, sounds very cool. I've actually liked all of Moxley's themes. I like the beginning one that he used. I liked Wild Thing. And I like this. So it fits him, you know, and he's, you know, clearly planning something. But if this is just a regular ass group of him and Claudio and Marina Shafir and Pac, okay, that's a badass group, but that's all it is a badass group. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing that the fans can't comprehend. You have no idea what's going on. Yes, I do. You're forming a faction of badasses. I've literally seen that 10 trillion times since I've been a wrestling fan. So if it's really something we can't understand, if it's really something we can't wrap our head around, what could that be? It could be a McMahon working for AEW. That would be difficult. That is what would classify as something being hard to wrap your head around. So I am really hoping it's Shane. I'm in the minority. Everybody I see on social media wants nothing to do with Shane and AEW, but I do. I just want to see it happen. I think it'll be fun to see it happen. Plus, I want to make a video on that. I think it'll get a lot of views when Shane McMahon debuts. I'm going to make my thumbnail already, just have it ready to go. That way, when we need to go live and talk about it, we'll be ready to rock. But that could be a pay-per-view closing, you know, match angle that we see with Shane, especially if Moxley at Grand Slam in 2 weeks wins that title shot from Darby Allin. We will find out. Up next, I was going to talk about the Nigel McGuinness segment. So he comes down to the ring, and you could tell it was in his shit was written all over his face. He was fooling no one. So he's got some information on Danielson, and this is where it gets even more confusing, because right after Moxley says the champ is not cleared, so Darby, you're going to have to wrestle me instead. Now Nigel is out there saying, Danielson, since Moxley and Darby are having their issue, now you're not going to have a title shot. So you see what I mean? It was just weird. So since they're doing that, that means you still have to wrestle at Grand Slam, but not in a title match, just in a one-on-one match. And he reveals that his opponent will be none other than himself, Nigel McGuinness. They're going to be wrestling for the first time since their Ring of Honor farewell match back in 2009. So we're talking 15 years in between matches. It's a match that's been talked about and teased in AEW for over a year. And Nigel has been burying Danielson on commentary for over a year just to get to this match. And now it's official. It'll be Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson if Danielson's cleared at Grand Slam. So that'll be interesting. Nigel and Danielson finally getting to have that match. And it will be a non-title match. I'm assuming Danielson will win. But if Danielson is going to be working a non-title match against Nigel McGuinness, that is where you would think Christian would have to try to do his thing, right? Is this contract like a briefcase? Can he just come out and do it? If that's the case, I feel like he's going to have to do that at Grand Slam. Where else would he do it? I hope that it doesn't result in him winning the championship because that would make me sad. I love Christian, though. I love everything about Christian. He's awesome. I just don't know if I want him to be AEW World Champion while all this other stuff is going on because there's a long line for that AEW title. And I still want to see Swerve win it back whenever his craziness with Hangman Page concludes. The main event of Dynamite was this crazy tag team gauntlet match, the winners of which will face the Young Bucks at Grand Slam for the tag team championships. And it was a delicious clusterfuck mess. The Outrunners shined in this thing. They were doing their 80s gimmick. The crowd loves them. I love to see them kind of getting organically over. Reminds me a lot of the Acclaimed. And we saw, how the Acclaimed kind of declined there, specifically Max Caster. But the crowd is really into this 80s gimmick. They're doing all the 80s tropes. They're doing the Mega Powers handshakes and the arm around each other while they deliver a double boot to the face. All that stuff, so good. Love, love, love this tag team. They are so much fun. And so it was fun to see them doing their thing in there. But the winning team was a little bit of a head scratcher. Kyle Fletcher and Ospreay have a ton of history. They're former tag team champions outside of the AEW umbrella. They've known each other for a long time. They know each other very well. So they're not like, a pulled out of your ass team or anything, but there was a lot of actual teams in the match. So Ospreay and Fletcher getting the W, great, but now that means they're going to face the Young Bucks at Grand Slam. And the reason Ospreay is teaming with Fletcher is because Don Callis cashed in a favor, asked Ospreay to team up with Kyle Fletcher, and Ospreay agreed. So now they have won. And if they're going to face the Young Bucks, I can't see them winning the tags really here. I think, maybe there's going to be some issues between Ospreay and Fletcher, or maybe Ospreay and Callis throughout the match that might act as a distraction for the heels, and they can come away with the win. It would also be interesting. They might be doing this as another way to maybe set up, Takeshita and Okada if you have them out there backing up each team. It just depends. But Ospreay and Fletcher got the win, and they'll be taking on the Young Bucks at Grand Slam. So it'll be Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson, Moxley versus Darby Allin for Darby's title shot, and the Young Bucks versus Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. So that's what we're looking at for Grand Slam. And it'll be really fun when Hangman and Swerve Strickland get back on television. They can both take as long as they need to recover from their injuries. And apparently MJF is going to be on the shelf for a little while as well. He was kind of written off in that pile driver spot at All Out to be off TV for a little bit of time. So we'll see when he comes back. I did not see any of Rampage last night. I saw one clip of Jamie Hayter coming out and smacking around Saraya and Harley Cameron. Always fun to see that. And tonight's Collision was already taped, but here is what you will see. Collision goes live in about 20 minutes. The Grizzleds, now in AEW. Happy to see the Grizzleds there. They're taking on FTR. That'll be fucking fun. Did they were separate classes, right, in NXT? We don't have any Grizzleds in Revival matches, right? But that's going to be fun. Jack and... Oh, wow. I wrote down Jack versus Daniels. We got Jack Daniels. It's Jack Perry versus Christopher Daniels tonight on Collision. So Daniels, in his 50s, getting back in the ring. We've got Mark Briscoe, Hologram, and Kyle O'Reilly versus the Premier Athletes and the Beast Mortos. Now, the Beast Mortos, Hologram, and I think Sammy Guevara and somebody else are all booked for a pre-Jaguars game wrestling match, I think on Sunday or something. So ahead of the Jacksonville Jaguars game, I think I saw that for this week. Might be a different week. They're going to be having a wrestling match there. I guess a ring set up off to the side or something. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to be 11:30 in the morning. These guys have got to get up and have a wrestling match before a football game. Cool. So that is pretty much it for my notes. We can go into the chat now and answer questions. You guys are, I didn't see some of these funny comments. Thank you, Daniel Malcolm. Oh, Dre King James, good point there. I've made the same point about Shane McMahon possibly coming in and being a part of this Jon Moxley stuff, because Moxley feels like he's forming this like shooter club, right? What if their faction name was like the Underground? What if once they finally come together, I think they're still BCC. They're still referencing that. Even they did a great little vignette too on Dynamite, a little 2-minute like video package about Moxley talking about Danielson, his lord, he was always his lordship's favorite, still referencing Regal and stuff. Oh, William Regal, by the way, also on SmackDown last night in the crowd. So a little William Regal reference there, and really, really well done stuff. But I think if they called it the Underground, like their little faction, Shane McMahon on Raw was doing that Raw Underground shit. That stupid ass. I never liked that. I know they tried it. Some fans were kind of into it. I just didn't like it. But there would be a connection there. Shane McMahon, last time we really kind of saw him on TV, that's the type of shit he was doing. And so this would be a natural transition and interest Shane has in this like kind of underground fighting type of stuff. And if he surrounds himself with just some ass kickers as his shield as he tries to take over the company, I don't know. It might be fun. It might be fun. Mike, I am really hoping we get a Cody and John Cena match next year. Absolutely. I think we kind of have to. I wouldn't mind if that was his last match. Cody and John Cena. Barry, how will you know if it's a sell if it's not red? I don't know, man. You're going to have to do your best. Superman Bass Fisher, appreciate the 5 from you. Nice to see the OTC back. It is. Always happy to see Roman. Glad to hear him talk. Haven't heard the man speak in months. Oh, yeah, good point there, too. Cody and Ciampa. I wouldn't mind seeing that either. Max Pokey, bro. I'm sorry, but Brett's spite can be a bit much. Of course it can. We all know that. I myself have admitted many, many times before that I might love Brett, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with everything he says. Don't do that. Don't be that person. Just because you like somebody doesn't mean that you have to just adopt every single thing that comes out of their mouth. That's what sheep do. So don't do that. I mean, Brett definitely says shit that I find ridiculous. Brett has contradicted himself a lot. There was a time I used to be a shoot interview junkie. I'm a recovering shoot interview junkie. There was a time when Bret Hart held no ill will whatsoever towards Bill Goldberg at all. Didn't blame him for it. Considered it an accident. These things happen. But years later, it just became part of his shtick. Now he's expected every time he goes on an interview to just trash Bill Goldberg. That's part of the reason why he's being called for interviews. So, of course, his spite can be a bit much, but he does it in such a lovable way. He's like a lovable grump. Sometimes he's so absurd with his hate. Eric Bischoff's the dumbest piece of fucking shit. Like the way he just starts going off like he's got Tourette's. It's funny. I don't know why. I consider it funny, even though he's ridiculous. And even though I don't agree, it's his delivery that just makes me smile more often than frown. You know what I mean? My God, Brett's the best. A level. Appreciate that $10 from you. I've got a smoke warning in my areas. There might be a wildfire out here. Just got a notification. Anyway, sorry about that. A level. Thank you so much, man, for the $10. I appreciate it. What's up, Greg? Hope you are doing well. Love your video about Hulk Hogan. If anyone hasn't seen it, give it a watch. I'm intrigued with Moxley's new faction because the Elite versus TK storyline has been bad. Yes, it has been bad. And I think you're probably referencing my 40th anniversary video I did on Hulkamania this past January. So yeah, check that out. That is, just search it. You'll find it. And I too am intrigued with Moxley because I don't know how to describe it, but when you're watching it on TV and the way he's kind of talking to Darby and the couple of lines of dialogues that he's had, the thing that he said to Shivani, the thing that he said to Darby, it feels big. It doesn't feel like this is just some run-of-the-mill shit that they're just doing to keep Moxley busy. No, this feels like they're doing something here. So all we can do is just hope for the best, that this doesn't completely shit the bed and suck, that it's exciting and intriguing, because a lot of people have a lot of reservations about Shane McMahon coming into the company. I just want to see how it's going to go. I just want to see it happen because I think it would be fun. Oh, really, Trekopedia? He says we should have ESPN. I should have ESPN and ABC back now. Thank you for that. I wasn't aware. I'll have to check that out. That's good. I was just starting to look into like Sling and switching my platforms because of this Disney shit, but apparently I'll take a look. I'll pull it up here when we're done. The new one. What's up, man? Monte Page. Testing out his super chat. Thanks for the $5. Wouldn't work for me for some reason. I have a playlist of WWE themes on my YouTube page. I've had the same problems. I've tried to send super chats. I'm like, what is going on? What am I doing wrong? I cannot figure it out. I mean, it's all my stuff's connected, but sometimes it wouldn't work. And I'd have to retry it. So yeah, same thing happened to you, I guess. But thank you so much for that, my friend. All right, right on. Well, I have got to wrap it up. I got to get out of here now. I have to head to work. Don't forget to be here tomorrow. We will be watching WCW Fall Brawl 1993. Don't remember much about this one, so I'm going into it blind, and we're going to watch that tomorrow evening, and it should be a blast. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I will catch